Welcome to the Trend Detection Podcast, powered by Siemens.
Let's use ultrasound for an example. Say you have a facility that's trying to get started up with predictive maintenance. So the first thing you're going to do, you're going to use stuff so you can gather the low-hanging fruit. Say, for example, ultrasound. The most common use for ultrasound is air leak detection. Ultrasound, from what I have seen, is not as expensive as some of your other predictive technologies, but you can still get a big bang for your buck with it. So you go out here and, okay, let's train this individual up and tell him, okay, we want to make a case just for how much air we are losing, compressed air we are losing through our lines. So you go out there and find several issues where there's leaks, how bad the leak was and everything, and build a case on that. And then once you figure out, say, a dollar amount, go out there and then make your case. Okay, here's what we have found just with this, but we need to do, well, we feel like we need to do more. Now, why not take this dollar amount that we are detecting that you are losing, and once these corrections are made, look at that dollar amount. Now, why not just take this dollar amount, let's reinvest in something that will help us out just a little bit more. And it's kind of like just building one on top of the other until before you know it, you have a great maintenance team, you got great technologies. So just basically just building that case.
I think that would be different for each person in our organization. For me personally, I work at quite a high level on the platform. The ability to I get my daily case report, and I've set that up so I can look at every case generated across the BlueScope footprint. So that's been very powerful for me. And then if you look at a particular reliability engineer that's looking after a particular metal coating line, they've got it configured just to get cases for their line. So they don't need to see what's happening and whether people are using the tool. They're just interested in what's happening for their particular area of responsibility. So that's certainly been very useful. I would say in terms of case generation, the ability just to go in and look at anomaly detection and be able to look at, hopefully somebody's had a look at that and made relevant comments, and then you can understand, and then whoever it might be, whether it's myself or a local asset manager, might decide to follow up on that. But we're already doing it from a basis in terms of someone's made comments, and we can see that at whatever level we're interested in. Asset intelligence for BlueScope is really about trying to introduce the various new technologies that are available, introducing what we'd consider smart technology, smart sensors, IoT devices, etc., and also use some of the platforms that's available now to us in terms of how we look at our equipment. In particular, and this is what leads us into the Senseye work, is the predictive maintenance. So really trying to move our maintenance approach from being what we'd consider to be time-based to condition-based and predictive, and potentially into prescriptive maintenance. So that's what we're looking at doing with the asset intelligence program. I mean, it's part of the success of the rollout here at Spring Hill, and then the following rollout at Westernport. We've seen enough success that we've now got people wanting the platform. So we're seeing that happen across the business, probably to the point where we've now arranged our enterprise licenses for pretty much the big plants in Australia. We'll be able to roll this out And if we have a similar discussion this time next year, I would be hoping we would be by a factor of 10 more users, more assets configured on the tool. So certainly, yes, I would recommend it, because yes, that is what we are doing, is recommending to our other plants to do it. And the reason why is just the success that we've had in avoiding failures. We have at this stage we've prevented about 170 hours of metal coating line downtime across our plants at Spring Hill and Westernport. And I can't put a dollar figure on that, but it is substantial. I think it's key. There has to be top level support, and it has to cascade through the organisation. As I said, there are competing priorities. We've got a number of things that we're working on. All the various climate issues, the energy efficiency issues, the sustainability issues, all of that. The skills shortage. There's a whole lot of things that occupy people's time. But if you've got support from board and chief executive level, then it will happen, and that's what's happened in our work here. It will be. It's very early stages in that yet. But for example, in my position, I look across the whole business. So right now, and whenever I open up Senseye, I'm looking at here in Port Kembla. I'm also looking at Westernport. I'm looking at Thailand. And I'm looking at New Zealand, although they don't have any data flowing yet, but they're probably only a matter of weeks away from that. So for people like myself, it's a huge benefit. As we get the platform more established, what we expect to see is much more sharing of the knowledge. So when we find something at one of our lines, and we've got a similar line in either Westernport or New Zealand or Thailand, we'll be able to share that information rather than them having to wait on having a case on their plant. So that's really why we wanted to have a platform that is able to be configured to monitor the equipment and scalable out to the other plants.
On that side yet, or is there still more sort of development and understanding to come before that happens?
I think it will take off soon, because it's just so intuitive. And I'm not now involved with those discussions on a product manager level, so it's just my wild thinking now. But for example, what was missing very strongly within IoT offerings and platforms was a very, very comprehensive reporting tool or interface. Yeah, so you got always some reporting for all the IoT tools in terms of how much interest rate and how much users and things like that. But if you think of a more comprehensive analysis that you need, for example, take Salesforce, customer relationship management tool, and there you have so many different aspects that you can correlate. Yeah, you have your leads with all the information of the leads, location, address, their interest and else. You have your accounts, the companies that you talk about, their structure, their location and else. And so all of these different topics, the opportunities per account, per lead, per contact, with millions of informations that you can put in, information snippets. And you can then create reports by drag and drop these different things. And that's really comprehensive, and it's good because you have all kinds of questions as a sales leader, for example. What kind of product is asked within what country, from which kind of account, who is involved and else. And this is all possible with such reporting. Transferring that to IoT, then if it's rolled out, you have similar reporting requirements. You want to understand which machine was operated or changed maintenance type of things by what person, how much interest rate, what application had what kind of impact, created what kind of notifications and else. So these questions are building up in complexity. And now if you use ChatGPT, for example, or generative AI, large language models in general, you can suddenly, from the logbooks that you have, forget about these complex reporting tools. You just put an interface, a large language model interface on top, and you can suddenly ask a large language model very intuitively all these questions.
We call it downtime avoided or cost avoidance is basically the main tool that that I used to use. Cost avoidance is a big thing, and especially if you have a facility that just runs right around the clock, you have very little time to put a wrench on anything except for the weekend, and then you have to pay overtime for people to come in and take care of the issue. And there's another thing you're saving overtime by avoiding this downtime. And then plus being able to do all this, the time it takes to say write that work order or have to do a PM when that PM could probably be stretched out or eliminated.
So we have already seen some really good cases in terms of what we would describe as downtime avoided. So where our plant, we avoided stopping our plant because we were able to predict a failure and act on it accordingly. So we've certainly been able to achieve that. The next stage we want to move to is with Senseye is using it more to monitor the equipment so that we can actually cancel time-based maintenance, and we're not at that point yet. That's our next steps with the tool as we configure more assets and roll it out broader across our manufacturing plants.
I think it needs to go hand in hand. So it needs to be like you first need to understand why. Yeah, there's this golden circle of Simon Sinek I like so much. Yeah, first talk about the why. Why do we need to take care about the technology and engage with it? And that's basically the understanding to generalize it. I mean, each company can define it a little bit different, but to stay relevant over the next years, because those companies that will not engage with novel technologies, they will be out of business in some few decades. And if you want to go that short-sighted as a leader of a company or as an employee of a company, that's really, I think, when you show the right analysis and talk about these changes that are upcoming, that people understand. So this why understanding. And then you can talk about the how. Well, how do we do that? Okay, we need to change. We need to have these Industry 4.0 concepts in mind, these North Stars in mind to change our company going forward. But how do we do that, and what do we do?
So it's wide-ranging. So as you would understand, with the size and scale of the equipment we've got here, we've got some very complex way of monitoring our equipment. Certainly, our bigger equipment is very well monitored, very well protected with online condition monitoring systems, various different instrumentation arrangements. But then when you come down in the size and scale of the equipment, we've got a lot of gaps. So there's a lot of the equipment that we actually don't know much about. And so the asset intelligence was about trying to get more data on how our equipment is performing, and putting that through the various systems that we've been installing, just to try and give our people that maintain our plant, some more information about what they should do in keeping that plant active and running. So we, as a large business, we're on SAP. So we've got SAP as our maintenance management system and our ERP. So we've had SAP now for close to 20 years. So all of our time-based maintenance is all in SAP. And so that's something that we have to work with on a regular basis. The other one that we needed to integrate to, and this was really what we describe as a foundation. We use OSI Pi, which is now Aviva Pi, as our historian, and we use that as the link between our various systems and Senseye. So that was part of the initial integration work that we had to do. But we've standardized across the business on Pi as our way of getting information into Senseye, and that's been a success.
It definitely takes time. but you have to start. I found where I was more beneficial was to be able to make believers out of people and be able to work, say, with upper management. If you could make a believer out of upper management, everything's kind of trickles down to the technicians. So here we are making believers out of everybody. So it also helps us helps me whenever, say, for example, I see a new technology. Okay, here's how I've helped you in the past. Now, here's what we're going to do now. Just because of the technologies that are available and how I've helped you out. Then say, for example, you find an issue that saves a company so many thousands or even millions of dollars, and then you kind of use that as your leverage. So being able to take that and use it as your leverage, and then you could kind of show it to them, said, hey, look at this. This is something I showed you what was going on, and you addressed it in this timely manner. Now look at downtime that was avoided. Once you start throwing pictures and then throwing dollar figures out at them, they kind of opens their eyes and going, oh, but you have to be very consistent with it, or they'll just it kind of fades away.
But industrial companies that don't have a digitalization strategy, that don't have an AI strategy, that don't have a data strategy going forward, they will struggle. Maybe not this year, maybe not still next year, but the years to come. So it's very important actually for also investors in companies to understand if their invested companies have such strategies. And there we can come in and say, hey, we can provide you a digitalization strategy, support you in that process of doing so, a data strategy, and connect it to your company strategy. And I think that is also a very relevant point, and one of the pitfalls many companies do, because they kind of disconnected. Yeah, they have their company strategy, and then they have some kind of pilot project on digitalization, and it's not connected. And that's also a problem on how you position digitalization projects with the management, how you get the resources, how they get the buy-in of people, touching upon change management, which is again another pitfall many companies don't put enough focus on.
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, we didn't really know much about predictive maintenance when we started, so we were very much learning from the vendors, including Senseye. And once we selected Senseye, I'd have to be honest and say that it was a very slow start, largely because of a number of what I describe as back office issues, like the commercial terms that we had to negotiate. That was slow. The integrations that we had to undertake was also slow. But all during that time, we always felt we had support from the Senseye engineers that we were working with. And then once we got over these initial hurdles, we really started to make some good progress there. And certainly right through the early stages where we were trying to bring our people along on the journey, the Senseye people made themselves available at awkward times. We selected a vendor that worked on US and UK time. Doesn't work well with Australia, but the Senseye people adapted to that.
Please like and subscribe on all major podcast channels, and find out more about Senseye Predictive Maintenance at Siemens.com.